All right, everybody, our first story today. Condé Nast wants employees to come back to work, but a bunch of the unions are fighting it. So here's a little background if you don't know. Condé Nast produces something called print magazines. Now, you may never have experienced these, but they're available at this thing called newsstands or in the Postal Service, which is a mail service that you've also probably never experienced if you're listening to this publication. I kid. They do Vogue, Wired, Vanity Fair, The New Yorker, GQ, Bon Appetit. They bought Pitchfork. And so they are a New York institution. Their parent company is called Advanced Publications. It's a private company. They own a whole bunch of Reddit, which they bought for a song, and now it's going to throw billions of dollars to their bottom line when they go public at some point. But they're a private company. That means most people will not know their revenue, profits, etc., and they have a very long-term view. They're owned by a family. And so in a leaked metrics article to The Information in March of 2021, Condé Nast had revenue of approximately $1.5 billion, according to an unnamed source. Information is pretty credible, so I would not necessarily take that with a grain of salt. I might take it with 5 grains of salt. Their CEO had said they were unprofitable in 2020, but according to this Information article, executives hope to break even next year. Really tough to be in the magazine business and to make that conversion over to digital. Well, yesterday I was on Twitter and I saw that the New Yorkers Union had posted on Twitter the following thread. And I'll just read it to you. Last week, our RTO working group met with Condé Nast to express serious concerns about their mandate to return to the office on November 15th. The plan is unsafe. And Condé is in violation of New Yorker Union and P4K, I guess that's Pitchfork Union contracts, and the status quo of the Wired Union, Wired Magazine. Condé Nast is evading essential questions about safety protocols, and their vague RTO strategy, return to office, I guess, is insufficient in light of high rates of transmission and a union that demands a robust plan. We therefore ask Condé to rescind their RTO date. They refuse. In Friday's meeting, management implied that because we aren't in the office, we aren't actually working, a baseless bad faith insult, particularly given CEO Roger Lynch's recent characterization of 2021 as a banner year. We are proud of our contracts. Condé Nast continue to pretend that they can unilaterally change our working conditions, but they are wrong. We have already filed ULP charge for Wired Union. Owing to the company's unlawful violation of status quo working conditions, we know our rights. We're not afraid to assert them collectively. Okay, so to put this in context, the question is, are we ever going to return to offices? And does an employer get to say we're returning to offices? Now, in New York City, the current 7-day average cases is under 1,000. Average for deaths is 9, 7-day average. So essentially people dying of COVID or getting COVID might be, some of them dying with COVID. They were going to die anyway. They got COVID. And of course, some of them might be unvaccinated. I'm going to guess that the deaths are almost all unvaccinated. So it's one of these situations where a company does get to dictate you have to come back to the office. It's clearly a low risk. If you look at it statistically, it's very low risk. Probably similar as this pandemic turns into an endemic. We're probably at the point where going to work is no different than going to Madison Square Garden to watch a Knicks game, going to restaurants. How different, and I'm just asking this as a question, how different is it going to a restaurant, which certainly these employees are doing, or going shopping, which certainly these employees are doing, or going to an office? Probably no different. Now, I'm not saying that going to an office is the be-all, end-all, but if the employer wants you to come to the office, and that's their decision, well, to the office you will go, or you have the option of not working there. So the union can, make whatever statements they want, but it is the employer's choice, because I don't think that this is high risk. Am I sounding crazy to you? I have seen many people going to the Lakers games, the Knicks games. They don't have masks on. I see people in restaurants with no masks on. Seems like, as of today, in New York City, it's reasonable to go to an office to work. And if you were scared about that, I don't know how closely packed together they are, but I know Condé Nast has a ton of money, and certainly they have tons of office space. So they could spread people out. They could have all kinds of cleaning crews. Not that contacting with a desk is how you get it. And certainly they could mandate to come back to the office. You have to have 2 shots or a booster, or even wear a mask, could be optional or not, depending on, I guess, if you have an office. So I think And I'm wondering, this is the only standoff I know about because here in the Silicon Valley, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, they all pushed their return to work back to January. So let's just say that's, Condé Nast is demanding this 2 weeks earlier. And of course, this is all due to the Delta variant. And Apple was like, hey, let's have you come back 3 days a week. Tech is being incredibly flexible. So why? Why is Condé Nast not being flexible? Why are they picking this as the hill to die on? A couple of theories. One theory is maybe they want to lay people off. Maybe they believe that great magazines and great content can only be made in an office. So let's say that they have those two beliefs. I'm guessing that those two beliefs are true. Maybe they want to trim the workforce. And maybe they believe that to make great content, to make great videos, to do photo shoots, magazine spreads, it's a collaborative process. And listen, I was a magazine editor for over 10 years. I can tell you it is a collaborative process. It would go better with people in the office. Now, if you're a writer and you're just writing a story, freelancers always did that from home. They didn't come to an office. Going into an office and typing on a computer is no different than typing on a computer in your home or apartment. So it does seem for artists that it would be pretty cool to be in an office together. So, the other difference here is Condé Nast losing money in a, negative spiral maybe, or in a dying industry or a challenged industry in big tech. We had our most profitable year ever. So this to me seems like a really interesting, notable case for us to watch, because I actually think what's going on here is, and I hate to be a cynic, maybe I'll be proven wrong. I think Condé Nast probably wants to cut jobs and maybe reduce their workforce. So this would be an interesting way to do that, is to just force people to go to the office. And I probably do think that an old school company believes that being in an office and discussing things is better than being home. And they probably also think some people are goofing off at home. I don't see that in tech because, we have such high expectations of employees. I'm actually seeing employees working harder, and I think burnout's a more acute problem. I don't know how good Condé Nast is as an old school company at managing remote employees, and they're privately held. And let's face it, they probably have old people who are old school running each of these brands. And they probably think, if you're not in the office, you're not working. So it could be a cultural thing. But certainly this is one to watch. Because remember with Apple, they expected employees to return 3 days a week, and they got massive pushback. They still don't have a hard date. They're waiting to see what happens with Delta. And they had a couple of petitions that returned, 1,000 signatures. They're petition crazy at Apple now. Amazon has left returning to the office up to individual teams. So each team is going to make a decision. I think that's what we're going to see for most companies, is that this is a negotiation. And so let's have the negotiation occur on a team by team basis and see how many people leave. So if my team, in Amazon Prime or Amazon Web Services doesn't come to the office and people resign, okay, we got an early warning system. So that's this grand dance that is occurring.